up and sit down.
Welcome to Prowrestling Podcast, everybody. Episode number 43. Today we have the legendary Herb Simmons with us.
How's it going,
How's it going, Herb?
Oh man, it's my honor to come on. I try to catch your guys' show every time you post one, and it amazes me how far you've came in 43 episodes.
Yeah, the first ones are hard to watch.
Well, but it's like everything, you got to crawl before you walk, and walk before you run, and you guys are consistent, and that's what will be successful at the end of the day.
Hey, we try. There's been a few weeks where we had something happen, but we try to at least do it once a week or so, and at least get some sort of podcast out. So it's been nice. But yeah, on to you, man. 50 years in the business. Not that many people can say that anymore. I mean, was it you and Vince McMahon?
Yeah, and it'll be actually 51 next month, and but who's counting, right? After all these years, you just you go with the flow. I had a conversation earlier this evening. I had to go to a meeting, and that's why I thought I was going to be running a little late. But that was kind of the topic of the conversation. A gentleman was wanting to know how much longer I was going to go and what drives me to keep on going. And like I told him, we're all fans. If somebody that's doing what you guys are doing say you're not fans, you're lying. We started off as fans. We've been fans all these years, and we'll continue to be fans. And it just so happens that we've been fortunate, like you guys have, to go out there and be a major, major part of it. I like to say the past, the present, and the future. And you and Bobby have just been out there now, taking the bumps and the bruises, and continuing to keep the foundation strong that so many of the ones that we have met and worked with and had come in built. And and I think that's what they all talk about when I talk with them. They're just excited that we have the locker room that we have, that is no BS, that go out there and protect the business the way they do. And it means a lot to guys like Tito Santana and Ricky Steamboat and guys like that when I talk to them, to think that they're still an organization out there that wants to do the best to keep the memories alive.
Hands down. Like, I've been in a few locker rooms. Texans been in even more, and those guys obviously even more, but there's no locker room like ours. Like, everybody tends to look out for each other and look out for the business first. What's best for the company?
Yeah, it is. And I'm proud to say that we are the organization that's out there that is doing it old school. There's some of them that will try to imitate that, but I think we do a dang good job by keeping the old school alive, the storylines, and giving the fans their money's worth. As you guys have heard me say before, it's like baking the cake. You got to have all the ingredients. Great fans is a major ingredient. Great locker room, great location, and then everybody just going out there and giving the fans the best. Because without the fans coming back, we'd just be working in front of a empty audience, and we all know how that went through some of the people who tried that through COVID.
And what's funny about the storylines is I had a fan and a customer of mine come in and ask about the poster about Gary Night Train Jackson and Attila Khan, saying, didn't they wrestle already? And I go, yeah, it's a part of a long storyline. And It went from, because he saw the first one, well, what he thought was the first one 5 months ago when they wrestled, he's like, well, I got to see how it ends. So he's decided to come on the 13th for the storyline.
I'll tell you, as we said when we first started to go on, January 13th sounds like it's going to be a good one. It's a stack card. This afternoon, a gentleman from St. Louis called, going to reserve 25 seats coming from St. Louis. Never been there before, but he follows all of the major promotions that are on the Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, and Friday nights. He said, but I have not been to one. I've seen a lot of your advertisement that you're doing. he said, so a bunch of my buddies and I are coming over. And another gentleman called from down in Marion County, Illinois, that's bringing a group up to celebrate one of the guys' 59th birthday, 59th year birthday. So it sounds like it could be good. So hopefully the weather cooperates with us and we pack the fairgrounds.
Yeah, that's. I was looking at the weather today. Man, ain't that something though? You know, we're gonna get hit Friday. You know, it's gonna get hit Friday, but I think pretty much, you know, Sunday is when it's gonna start the coldness of, you know, the weather, and then into
Yeah, I
Monday.
think late Saturday they're talking about down to 26 degrees, and as long as we don't get any snow, I mean, that's some of the text messages I'm getting. Hold the snow back, Herb. We don't mind the cold, just hold the snow back.
There you
So
go.
we're going to do our best to do that to accommodate them because everybody's got a cabin fever with the SICW. I mean, it's kind of like people are having withdrawals. You know, they're calling me up and saying, "Man, it seems like it's been 6 months or a year since we've seen wrestling." And I said, "Well, they've had it throughout the year." Well, no, we're talking about real wrestling, and we want to see SIC. And those are our diehard fans, and I love every one of them. And but a lot of new people are catching on to what we're doing, and you know, they're following the Sunday night show every Sunday night. I mean, last night's show I checked it out earlier, and it's getting good reviews on it. A lot of good hits. So, you know, we'll be back doing TV tapings on Sunday and get back in the groove of things. And I mean, 2024 is lining up to be good. You know, we're going to have later on in the year a little issues with the building. The fairgrounds is going through a remodeling, but we've already secured another building, the Fireman's Hall out in Collinsville. They're on Route 40 off of the interstate, real easy to get to. We'll talk about that later on, but we're not going to let that stop us. You know, the fans want to see the best in professional wrestling, and that's SICW.
Okay, I have a quick question about the 13th. I know we talked about it last week and well, pretty much every week since we knew this was going to happen, but a couple of people that watch the podcast, what titles are on the line on the 13th?
The titles, the tag titles for sure. The Big Texans title will be on the line. Him against the big guy, Peyton Ayers, one half of Devastation and Corporate. I'm really looking forward to that one. You know, you guys have locked up a couple times in the past, but I'm going to tell you, when you put you two monsters in that ring, who knows what's going to happen? And of course, the tag titles are on the line. And then you know, Bobby D's Central States title. So it's an all-star card. You know, the girls are going to be in action. Tag match. I think there's 9 matches set, which is usually unheard of on one of our cards. But I kind of thought, you know, everybody's having cabin fever. Why not give them a few extra matches and let them get in there and get their blood flowing and you know, I'm excited about every one of the matches because if you look at it, each of them's got some type of angle to it. And I had to enlighten our Canadian Zero today. He put a post out saying that that him and Big Nasty Glenn Williams wasn't in action. And I said, well, either they are zeros or they can't read because I posted the entire card over a month and a half ago, and I sent him a copy of it. So I had to correct him on that, but now I know for a fact he is a Canadian Zero.
There you go.
I thought the Canadians had a better education system. What happened with those two?
Yeah.
Well, who knows? But you know,
How much
we
time
haven't
do you
talked
have?
about the we haven't
I
talked
got a
about
whole
the
list
big
of things on.
Yeah, the big match, and you know that's been in the making. Those two guys have battled before, but you know, you and Bobby both. Those are two of the guys, kind of like yourselves, been in it a long time. You guys go in there, are the real deal, and just like a telecon, we know how tough he is. We know how devious he can be. But then when you look across that squared circle with that cage around it, there's the night train. Gary Jackson. The guy is not aged a bit. I'm telling you, he looks the same today that he did when we were sneaking him in the doors at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel when he was 16 years old. Now,
wow.
Now, whatever he's drinking and whatever he's eating all these years, I need to get some of that. because I'm telling you, he is
I asked him what kind of blood he was drinking, but he didn't tell me.
the guy is not changed. And then when you throw the likes of Danny Boy, former SICW champion, a guy that traveled the roads with the likes of the Ron Powers and the Giant Assassins and the Bruiser Brodies and the Dick Murdochs. We lucked out last show there when we had the two referees that got taken. We still had Bobby's, I think it was Bobby's match going on, that we had to have a special guest referee. And who better? And man, when I walked out of the dressing room, I was hoping that Danny was still there. And because, periodically over the years, he has come back and taken a show in and just watched them when the girls were out with mom somewhere. And of course, like he said, the girls have grown up now. It's kind of like that empty nest syndrome. He got to get out that night and didn't have to get a note from mom to go, So, but I thought, man, I hope he hasn't left early like he's done in the past. And when I went over and found where he was sitting and asked him, and he was reluctant at first, but I was happy the way it turned out. And of course, during the TV tapings, he just had enough of, the likes of Stephen E. and what Peyton Ayers was in the ring doing. So, he's going to be the special guest referee. And I got all the confidence in the world that if Stephen E. tries to get in that ring, whether he tries to climb over it or whatever he's going to do, Danny Boy is going to be the one to stop it. And then hopefully Gary gets a fair shake at it. And so, I mean, if you look at all those matches on that card, every one of them is going to be main event caliber, I think.
Well, I can tell you, Herb, is the guy that had Danny Boy as the special guest referee in November. It was a breath of fresh air when I had that sharpshooter locked in and Glenn Williams tried to get in and he cleared him out for me, keeping it as a one-on-one match how it was supposed to be. It was a relief.
Yeah, and I hope that the steel cage match is designed for the purpose of keeping the guys in the ring and keeping the other people that may want to try to get in, like a Stephen E. or Lucky P. Larson, whenever he's around, outside. But it still takes somebody in there that can do it, other than the combatants that are in there. You two guys get in there and you're going back and forth, and then some manager or somebody like a Stephen E. decides he wants to try to climb in. A guy like Danny Boy will show him where the hog went and ate the cabbage. And I'm looking forward. I hope Stephen E. comes. He's still got this thing. I get messages from him all the time that he still wants to buy SICW. He's raised the price, and I don't know if his education afforded him the word no. It's a simple word, it's got two letters in it. And but I mean, I got messages all the time from him, and he's not going to rest. He's going to do this, and then he'll start. I'm going to sue for this and sue. Okay, well, right now you better be worried about January the 13th, when your monster Attila Khan, who you guys have battled, and what he's like, what he's capable of doing. But I just have all the faith in Gary that, given these circumstances, in a cage with Danny Boy as the enforcer there, that he's going to have an equal opportunity, and we'll see what happens.
We've never put out the full card, so will you tell everybody what the full card is coming up on the 13th?
Yeah, if you give me a second, I've got it wrote down here somewhere. But it's a.
I was curious when you said the ladies. I didn't see that match.
Oh yeah, it's there. My daughter usually keeps me, and then she did. She gave me the right legal pad here. But yeah, the ladies, Miranda Gordy is in action. Of course, she'll be taking on Judy Azul in a ladies match. And of course, we've talked about the main event tag match, Attila Khan versus Gary Jackson in the cage with Danny Boy, the special guest referee. Austin Molitalo will be in action, and he'll be taking on the popular Billy McNeil.
Oh, that would be a good one.
And of course, now, Austin is kind of, what do I want to say, leaning towards the dark side,
So he's changed his stripes lately.
The zebra is coming out in him, and And
It's the mustache.
it's the mustache. It does it every time.
Yep.
Scott Henson is joining us, and he's going to take on another big monster in Kowalski. So that's going to be a great one there. Of course, Kowalski backs down from nobody, and Niles Planck will be with us, and he's going to take on Sean Douglas. I'm looking to see if Sean is up to the battle of somebody to the caliber of Niles Planck. I believe he will be. And of course, one that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, and that's my good friend Bobby D going against superstar Steve Fender. I mean, when you talk about main events, now I'm going to tell you that's worth the price of admission right there, because I know what Bobby can do, and of course Steve Fender, superstar, just coming off of freshly being married. And being trained by the late great Harley Race, those guys, they're going to tear the place down. I got a feeling. And then, of course,
if I had to name my 3 hardest opponents, Fender's definitely in that list. Like, being trained by Harley, the counters that man knows, like, he makes you elevate your game to a whole new level.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And of course, the tag match, the Canadian Zero, Sean Vincent, and Big Nasty Glenn Williams is going to take on Curtis Wilde and Bryce Carby.
Wow.
That's going to be a nice tag match. I think that will keep them going. And then, of course, the SICW Classic champion, the Big Texan. You can't have a match at the Belclair Fairgrounds and not defend the Classic title, which I know you wear proudly. And
yes, sir.
He's taking on Pete Nares, and of course Stephen E. Will be there probably for that also. And then another one that I'm really looking forward to, and in just a couple of weeks back, I put the stipulation out there, which drew Lucky Pete Larson out of the underneath the rock, and that's the LA Hustlers defending the SICW tag titles against the popular Top Guns, with the stipulation of if the LA Hustlers get disqualified, like they've tried to do many times or have done many times in the past, they'll be stripped of the titles, and the Top Guns will be the champions. We'll see.
That's unheard of. So I mean, that's good. We had of course we had the Top Guns on last week. Was it last week or the week before? They were gung ho about this match. They see that 2024 is going to be nothing but great things for them, and they want to start it off with a bang. So definitely they're going to be doing everything they can to actually win that match.
Well, just to throw another plug in there real quick, I just watched it this morning. SICW Explosion. It was the main event. It's a little bit of a preview of that from this past Sunday.
Yeah, the show last night showed them coming out, and actually it was a tag match, and they talked. I think it was Luke Justice and who was it? Was it Brian? To let them substitute, and and of course we know what happened there. The LA Hustlers doing what they do best, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but they will take those shortcuts. So, and I'm kind of tired of that. I think the Top Guns need to have a fair shake and come out there and they're the underdogs as far as experience goes, but trained by Bob Orton at the Ace Wrestling Academy, and they're making a name for themselves. They're doing some traveling. So I want them to have a fair shake, and I want the LA Hustlers to come and defend those titles like champions are supposed to do. And if they hadn't have broke all the rules as far as getting herself disqualified, I wouldn't be taking this stance. But maybe this will make them come and stay on their good side. And if Lucky P. Larson knows what's good for him, we'll see what happens. And if they win, so what? He walks out of there still the manager of the champions. But if they try to take a shortcut, then we'll see the Top Guns as the new tag titles champions.
It'll be very interesting to see this match, and I might, be looking behind the curtain just to see, because I don't think I've seen one match where the LA Hustlers didn't do something to cheat or get disqualified. So I don't know if they have it in them to actually work a match, so it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. And like I said, it's when you look at all 9 of those matches, I mean, I sit there and say, I want to see this one. I want to see this one. I want to see all of them because, like I said, they've all got something there that is really enticing, intriguing. It's been a while since we've had the ladies in action, and I get a lot of calls for that. And of course, they'll be staying over for TV tapings on Sundays with us too. So we're going to get back into the routine because a lot of our fans that watch the Sunday night show, we've done a good job of putting in some fillers, some of the classic matches, bringing everybody up to speed on what's been going on, what we expect to be going on in 2024. But we got diehard fans out there that want to see those TV tapings. It takes them back into the days of wrestling at the Chase, and
they want to see the wrestling.
That and they like it. They like the studio setting, and they like the interviews, and we're all about trying to give the fans the best we can, just kind of like what you guys do each and every time you do a podcast.
Right. Hey, I'm going to throw some in there about Danny Boy. We talked about him being one of my trainers growing through this business, but as the SICW Classic Champion, I've had a couple cage matches the last year, and nothing against the refs that we have because our refs are pretty good guys, but just to have someone in the ring that is going to be an enforcer, because one of my cage matches was against Steve Fender, and before they even bell hit, I still had the rope and everything in my hand. Before they even bell hit, he attacked me from behind. And of course, everything that I just brought in was weapons that he used against me.
Yep.
So it's going to be nice to have someone in there that can kind of control the situation and, kind of make it a more even playing field. So, yeah, I'm with you, Herb. I'm going to watch every single match of this.
Well, and you brought up a valid point there, because I've had a couple of fans ask about why a special guest referee, and you hit it right on the head. We've got some of the best referees in the business. We got a new guy, Andy, is learning the ropes, but we got guys out there that can go out there and handle their own. But I feel that we've seen what happened. The last show, 2 of the refs that we had there, normally we like to have 3, 2 of them got hurt. And if it wouldn't have been for what would we have done if we wouldn't have had Danny sitting there that night?
Special ref for Simmons?
Well, no, I've never done that. Don't want to do that. But my point there being is the Knicks and Dennis, and our referees are capable, but are they capable of having to go toe to toe with somebody like a Telecon? And that's why I go back to the days of Sam Muchnick. You don't put your hands on the referee. You don't spit on Superman's face. You don't tug on his cape. But some of these guys get crazy. I like a Telecon. And I want to see if he wants to do that with the Danny Boy. I don't want Nick. I don't want Andy. I don't want Dennis. The other referees to Bill Henson to have to do that. Now, we saw Bill out in Sandoval when Lucky P. Larson, after that big cage match we had there, Bill handled his own. In fact, Lucky found out what it was for landing on the ground on his behind. But
there's a difference between Lucky and Attila.
Just getting ready to say that the difference is that Attila takes no prisoners. And so, and again, I hope Danny doesn't have to do anything. I hope he will call it right down the middle. But it depends on how ornery Stephen E. wants to get also. Right. And so we'll wait and see how that happens. But and when I explained that to a couple of the fans that asked that question, they totally agreed with me, and they said, well, yeah, we understand that. So we're coming. Get us a seat. So glad to hear that.
Not to keep adding to this, but just think about it. The last time we had a cage match at the fairgrounds, it was Flash Flanagan against Purple Haze. Of course, he had a special manager with him. And, that manager was able to hand something to Purple Haze, so, this is going to be it. Having Danny in there as the enforcer, I think it's going to make it a really great match.
And when you speak of that person, that was Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan, yes, sir.
One of the greatest minds of our business at SICW. And so, again, I think that when you look at this cage match, when you look at that's the main event, your match defending the classic title, always a main event because that is the representation, that the Central States title, the Bruiser Brody Cup that now is right back to its rightful owner.
Right.
We don't have a ton of belts, but I mean, the ones we have mean something.
Right.
To say that you're the holder of that Bruiser Brody Cup for the next year after you win it is prestigious, I believe.
Absolutely.
The same way with the Central States title. It's when you dish these belts out and everybody's got a belt and you take away what the belts mean. And so that's why when you look at the cards on there, there's not a one of them that I'm not going to be going outside. I'm not going to. I'll be going to the bathroom at the intermissions because I want to see them. I mean, and I help put them together, but I think this is going to be a lineup that the fans that do show up are going to walk out of there saying, "Holy crap, what
Definitely.
did we just see here tonight?" And because I know everybody's coming with their A game, because I can sense it. I got some of the guys calling me when they're in town or when they're traveling, saying, "Man, we can't wait. It feels like ever we haven't been at SICW." Well, get ready because this coming Saturday,
We're back.
It's going to be back, and I just I think the fans are going to have a lot to talk about.
Well,
It's
on
not
that
just
note,
the fans either, though. Like, I've talked to a lot of the boys online. Like, we're all excited to be back.
oh,
It feels
yeah.
like forever to us, too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of the guys are promoting it, and and that's what you guys know. You got to help promote the show. You got to promote yourself, and it's all teamwork. It's not one. I can't do it all myself, and even though sometimes I try, and I really found that out here a month or so back when I got a little ill. Guys were calling and stepping up to the plate. Hey, what can we do? Lucky we didn't have a match going on during that time,
Right.
but my son. Jason, my daughter Jessica, my wife, my daughter-in-law, guys like you, Jim. People were just calling me and saying, "Hey, is there anything we can do?" Well, I'm thankful we didn't have a show going on, even though if there would have been, you guys would have took care of it, and
Yeah, I think
I
we
wouldn't,
would.
I wouldn't even have been missed. So,
What is the number that they can call to reserve tickets?
618-286-4848 and 618-286-4848. And it's on there, and like I said, the phones have been ringing off the hook, and my wife and daughter answer those calls, and of course a lot of the regular fans that we have got my phone, and I had one tonight, Mark Underwood. Hey, I need 4 seats. Another one said, hey, I got 4, but I need 2 more. And the guy from St. Louis called me and said, I need 25. So
Right.
I called my son and I said, look, you guys better put up a few extra seats,
Hey,
So
I was just going to say that too. We will always sell the tickets at the door too. We will not
tickets
refuse
are on sale.
anyone. So
No, we
come
don't.
on in.
We won't turn anybody down. We'll make room for them. Plenty of concessions. I've already talked to them and told them that you may want to beef that up a little bit, make some extra popcorn, have a little extra help to where the line gets a little through quicker. So I'm excited. I mean, it's because I'm still a fan, and I can sit here and watch it on some of the tapes that I've got and enjoy it. But there's nothing like being right there and hearing that crowd and watching you guys go out there and give it all. And it's fun. The post production part of it that Brian and I get to sit and do, and it's just watching it all come together. Nate, you know how that all works, and you got to say there's a little sense of pride in doing that when you see that finished product.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Without a doubt.
so
Especially on the TV tapings, because you can back it up, see it from a different angle, and everything, and it's
yeah.
it's
And we try to get the best shots we can, and like I said, a couple of guys reached out to me and said, "Hey, we got some ideas. We can help with some of the production. We got another camera we may be able to put in there, a roving camera, and so we're gonna look at it. I'm open to all new avenues to try to make the product better. Um, of course, the main thing is the cost. Because if you start getting too much of that stuff, you got to pass that cost on to our consumers, and I don't want to do that. You know,
right.
I want them to come and have a good night out. I want them to bring the husband, the wife, their kids, however many they got, or their friends coming out. I think that's where a lot of our other forms of entertainment are hurting because they go out and want to charge a fortune for a mediocre program or show. And I want them to walk out there and say, man, this was worth every penny that we spent here tonight. And when can we come back?
I mean,
So you guys got some questions?
well, actually, not really about the 13th. I think what we really got built up questions for is what's coming down the road.
Because I don't want to
We're
keep you guys up all night because I know you guys go to bed early.
oh, no, I'm sure we don't. So,
My alarm's not going off till 5 a.m. this time. I'm sleeping in.
wow. Okay.
That's the
Well,
time I'll be going to bed.
no, that's crazy.
That's about what time I go to bed too.
Yeah.
You guys are nuts. So May 17th and May 18th, we started off with the Friday night. We started off with the one-man show, um, and his name is now escaping me.
After.
Bill After. There we go. So I have not seen his one-man show before. I know he gets on stage, and I've seen him tell some stories, and of course, last time you brought him in, he was singing for us. So I'm kind of interested. My interest is piqued to see what this one man show is going to be all about. Did he drop you any hints on what it could be?
Oh yeah, I saw it a couple of times myself, and I actually had him tentatively booked for last May, the first Fan Fest, and he called me back and said, "Herb, I got a problem. What's the problem?" He said, "Well, that's Mother's Day weekend."
Right.
And I said, "Yeah, okay. So, I'll get you back home in time." He said, "No, you don't understand. Not only is it Mother's Day, it's my anniversary." That's all he had to tell me because I said, "I understand, Bill. Happy wife, happy life."
Right.
And so when he saw, of course, Bill and I talk all the time, and great guy. I've told people that we inducted him into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, one of the first Hall of Fames he ever got into, and he has made so many of the legends careers for them because back in the day when he was in the photography business in the magazines, it was him that was traveling across the world following these guys and shooting pictures of them and putting them in the magazines. And we didn't have the cell phones and we didn't have the internet and all of that. So and a lot of the guys will tell you that without a Bill Apter, and mainly Bill back then, and some of the other guys that Bill worked with, their careers would never have got where it was. So
Right.
when I called Bill, and he called me back and said, "Look, I hate to do it to you, I just can't make it this time." Well, when he saw me advertise May of 18th, he called me and said, "Hey, that's the weekend after Mother's Day." And I said, "Yeah, I know that." He said, "Well, that's also the weekend after my anniversary." He said, "So why don't I come in and I'll do the one man show and then I'll stay there Saturday." And so it was a win-win. He's a great entertainer. He'll imitate Dusty Rhodes. There's not too many of the wrestlers out there that he can't. And he'll tell stories. He'll sing. We're going to have the sound system in there. We'll have a video screen up, have a computer for him. But I saw him out in Vegas. He was doing it one year we were there, and he got Sam Houston up on the stage and put Sam Houston in the figure four Lego. So whatever Bill can do to entertain, he's going to do that. And of course, like I said, he loves to do karaoke. And of course, when you've got him coming, of course, here comes Darla, here comes Barbara, here comes Pam, and so it's going to be a night. And that's so he said, well, I'll come in Friday night. Have you got a room? And I'll do the one-man show. And I said, well, let's do this. Let's do a VIP night, and we'll sell an extra ticket for the VIP section. And so they're putting us in, where the bar is there at the hotel, and there's that little room behind there. Seats about 100 people or so. So that's where we're going to set Bill up for his one-man show. And it will be for the VIP people who's went on and bought that extra ticket. And some of the legends that they're coming in town that Friday. They'll stop in there, but we're not going to allow any pictures to be taken as far as with the legends and them, because as you know, there are people out there in our world that will come and try to stand outside and take pictures. I mean, some of these guys
chase them down from the airport,
chase them all down, and then they don't want to come and buy a ticket to get in and help offset the cost for us. So I've already made it clear to the guys that I know that's going to be coming in Friday night that if you come down, it's no harm to tell the people, hey, I'll be at the Fan Fest tomorrow at 10 a.m. That's where you want to. And but it's about a 90-minute show that Bill will do, and I'll have some finger food for those who bought the extra VIP ticket that evening, and then of course they can be right there at the bar, and some of the boys will be hanging out in the bar, and the same thing there.
What?
Yeah, some of them, but
I plan on doing it this year.
But some of them, I want the people to come and enjoy themselves, but I don't want them to be hounding. Hey, can I get your picture? Last year we had a guy come in and start taking pictures of Hebner. It started a shitstorm basically, and I'm running back and forth to the airport, and poor Nick was ready to pull what little hair stubs off he had.
Oh, yeah.
And he was calling me on the phone, telling me what was going on. I said, well, Nick, I'm at the airport. Handle it. Ask the guy to stop doing what he's doing, or ask him to leave. And if he don't, then, find my son. My son will bounce him out of there on his ears, But, and that was really the only thing we had, other than the problem we had with one of the guys from the hotel got a little obnoxious, one of the clerks, but they took care of that real well. And, this year, the Aviator is, again, good to work with. I thought when I decided to do it again, maybe looking someplace else, but, that location worked last year. And so I'm going to give him a shot, and I think it will. I think it'll be fine.
And for everybody that came last year, a part of the contract that Herb put in place is the air conditioning will be on hours before we're even there, so it'll be a pleasant climate inside.
Well, the thing was the system was working. It's just that somebody who didn't know the system had the heat on.
Oh.
And that's what the problem was. In fact, they didn't realize it until they finally had to call the guy who was off duty, and they had a maintenance guy there, and he kept on coming in and saying, "Oh, the system's not working." Well, finally, when they got the what they call the maintenance supervisor to come in, they actually had it set on heat instead of air. So that was an issue that because I was, believe me, when I went over that following Monday morning to get things finalized with them, that was on the top of my list of being aggravated about. And of course, shit happens,
Right.
and but overall, when you look at the whole scheme of what that event was, if that was the only problem we had, we were lucky. It's a logistic nightmare. I mean, just like now, like I said, if we don't add another name to this list, that's about, not counting the local people, that's about 42 trips back and forth to the airport that I got to arrange. And you know what? They all don't come in at one time, you know. And then you got to arrange those same 42 trips on Sunday morning to get them back out of town. So it is a logistic nightmare, and that's why I hope it goes off good. Nick Rednire does everything he can. You know, he made that poster up tonight that I just posted. Took him about 6 hours to get it all. And then, of course, I say, well, Nick, there's going to be some more pictures we got to put on it. He said, I'm going to have to move these all around. We will. Unless, and like I said, I'm happy with the group that we got coming in now. If we don't add another one, that I think if you look at them, we got some new ones that weren't there in May. We got some that's coming back. Haku's. How can you have a fan fest not have Haku? You know, people like that, or Stan the Lariat Hansen. Yeah, right. And I've not had one person say, well, they were there last time, why would I want to come and see them? Everybody has said, hey, you know, I got this from this time. Now I got something I want him to sign. I picked up at auction, or I bought. So I haven't had one person, you know, and this year we've added some of the Glow Girls that's going to be there, you know. And you look at the Hall of Fame, the class of 2024. I mean, Wendy Richter. I mean, she's going into that. Lalani Kai, Judy Martin, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., for everything that he's done in the business. You know, his father was on the first card of 1959 of Wrestling at the Chase. His brother Barry wrestled. You know, Randy. You know, Randy had his first independent match at South Broadway Athletic Club. So how do you not have Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. in the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame?
Yeah, with everything that he's done for St. Louis and for the future of the business, not just his son, but the Ace Academy. You know, he's right there training the new students to, you know, to branch out and, you know, help the wrestling world. So,
and he continues to do that. I mean, I sent him to this last, whenever this airs, or whatever this last Saturday was, the 7th. I had him up in Indiana. Later in April, I got him going to Montana. You know, here's a guy that is still out traveling. He goes to Mount Vernon early in February. He goes down to Albion, Illinois in April. And here's a guy that's, you know, getting out there and still doing it. And that's what I really like about him.
What gets me is he'll drive. If it's close or within a few hours, he'll still get in his car and just drive to the.
Oh yeah, he called. He got up in Indiana, Paola, Indiana is where he went Saturday, and he called me on the phone and he said, I can't find this address, and so we were able to get him there and had a good time at a church function. The pastor the next morning, who's a promoter also, called me up and said, hey, did Bob make it home okay? And he said, I just want to let you know everything went great. Fans loved it. They loved talking to him. And that's the kind of guy Cowboy Bob Orton is. So he definitely belongs in that St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
That kind of answers my question. I was going to ask, just from Texan telling stories about that pool tournament, I was going to ask if when Bob goes to these places, does he actually have a GPS or does he just kind of wing it?
He wings it.
Yeah, well, he has it, but just like the other night, he said, well, I probably should have put the address in, but I have trouble talking to that lady. So he knows he can call me on the phone, or he calls Andy a lot, Andy Warner, and Andy was going to try to make the trip with him, but then Andy got a little under the weather and couldn't, and I wasn't able to go. And but a couple of these other trips coming up, I'm going to make them with him.
I kid you not, he still uses a compass. You know, the thing that sits on his dashboard tells him what direction he's going. He'll still whoop that out and follow that thing if he knows he's got to go south.
And I'm going to tell you,
I know you talked about that pool tournament. That's what you say. He's like, well, I know I got to go east.
Yeah.
I'll drive till I'm on the highway.
It's awesome.
But well, and like I said, if you guys ever get a chance to take a road trip with him, man, I'm telling you, you're in for a treat.
You like to talk?
Well, once you get him going, and then if you stop and partake a little bit in some beverage, and the lips get a little loose. I mean, I probably the one that's the most memorable was I was taking him down to Cape Girardeau with Terry Funk, and I had them in the car, and my gosh,
Both of them?
both of them in the car, and
That's a hell of a car ride.
that was. And believe me, normally I can get out there and keep up with the truckers, but I didn't want to get there quick. I wanted to listen. The quicker I got there, they'd be getting out of the car. So, man, I did below the speed limit just to hear their talks and their stories. And of course, I've heard some of his stories over and over, but each time they're fascinating.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that traveled with Roddy Piper, with Adrian Adonis, with Dick Slater. All the guys I grew up watching, and just to hear some of the shenanigans they got into, yeah. When his wife tells the story about how the FBI come and knocked on his door one day and scared the hell out of him,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's one I haven't heard. Is that one you could tell for PG-13?
No, not. But and it was nothing bad. It was actually turned out to be a mistake. But it's still that it's a scare. Believe me. I mean, FBI comes and knocks on your door, you're going to say, well, "What are you doing here?" I hope you're at the wrong house. But
thinking, what was I doing yesterday?
Yeah, he's such a great guy, down to earth, and he came to the Christmas party and enjoys all of that stuff, and loves coming over to the academy and watching the the young talent and watching what you guys do. So yeah, he's going to May. He'll be inducted into that. Now, if I could just get Randy to come in and do the induction for him, we'd be in good shape.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So besides Bob, we have another local guy, a local legend, who's in a cage match this Saturday. He's going into the Hall of Fame too.
Very well deserved.
Gary Jackson is receiving the Sam Muchnick Award. Is that who you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's receiving the Sam Muchnick Award. Again, can't think of a better guy to win that this year's award for that. That Sam Muchnick Award, Nick and I started a couple years ago. First year, Darla Staggs, we gave it to her as a number one fan because, you've heard that story. I tell everybody she was in 1959 was at the wrestling match when Dick Hutton and Pat O'Connor went for the NWA title, and her dad was holding her in his arms, running around the ring after the match was over. So not that she's that old, but she was literally a baby in his arms, and she's went to every match since then probably. But and then the following year, Barbara Goodish, we gave it to her because of what she's helped to keep Frank's memories alive. She's allowed us to use his name in a good way. We're not out there flaunting it for self gain. We're out there to keep his, and that's kind of been my promise to her and Larry. Is that as long as I was able to, because Frank meant so much to us. And Barbara had actually last year early, she was on a podcast and kind of let the story out of the bag that I have never ever told, but she did on a podcast that Frank and I was close to going in business together. And after the podcast, I called and said, "Why did you tell him that?" And she said, "Well, because people need to know you were more than just associates, and he worked for you, and there was a bond there." And I said, "Well, yeah, but some things aren't people's business." But that was her choice to say, and if she wanted to, that's fine. So that's why we gave her the award that second year. And then, of course, this year, Nick and I said, "Look, Gary was sneaking into wrestling at the Chase when he was 16 years old, when you weren't allowed to be in there, and he has not stopped since." And so he's well deserving of the Sam Muchnick Award this year.
I mean, definitely, a St. Louis native who's worked for the WWF, works for WCW, worked for the NWA, worked for WC. Well, I don't think it was WCCW at the time, but he worked down there in the Texas. So I mean, he's been there, done that.
Been
So
everywhere. I mean, he worked for Angelo Paffo's group, the ICW. The guy was always ready. When he'd go to those shows, he'd have his bag in his car, and if a promoter, somebody said, "Hey, you got your stuff with you?" That's why he preaches now to the younger guys: be ready. If you're
yeah,
going, it's too late to say, "Well, no, I left my gear at home,"
right.
because you ain't wrestling that night if you do. And that's how.
Didn't Gary have a couple of dark horse matches for the WWF or
Oh yeah,
WWE?
yeah. Well, they weren't just dark matches; they were matches on TV. One of the big one he took on was Razor Ramon, a Kamala, the Ugandan giant. If you go on and Google that on it, you'll see Gary Jackson.
Well, he
So
wrestled
that's
Shawn
where
Michaels for the Intercontinental Belt.
Yeah, yes, he did.
he's always told us it's not just had your gear with you. Like he had a go bag at his house. So like if they got a call, he's like, "I'll be at the airport in 10 minutes."
Yeah, yeah. He definitely great guy. Takes time to talk with everybody. He was so excited about being able to make the Christmas party this last year, and because the year before he stopped by, but he had to go to work that night, and so he wanted to just sit around and talk with you guys, and brought the wife along and had a great time, and yeah, him and I talked quite a bit on the phone over the business, and that's usually what it all is. We talk about wrestling, and because it's the bond, the glue that holds it together, and so I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him, and I hope his family will come out and support him, which I know they will, and the fans will too.
Oh, definitely,
And
definitely.
there should not be a promotion in St. Louis or Illinois that doesn't send a representative there to be there, because they all know Gary Jackson. All the promoters, even the new guys out there, know Gary Jackson. And we've actually extended the olive branch out to these other promotions. I mean, we've got Troy Peterson supporting this from Impact Pro Wrestling. We got Jason Jones
Yeah.
as one of the sponsors. We've got Greg Anthony's organization. He's bringing in Downtown Bruno Brown. Who else we got? Scotty Z. But so we've offered it to these other local promotions, and majority of not don't want to do with it. Well, that's fine, but we've at least offered. So I don't want to hear no more shit about SICW don't want to work with anybody. We've extended that olive branch 3 times that I've kept track of, and it's kind of like no. We're not getting anything out of that. We're asking you if you want to come and be part of something that's going to be history. They're going to be talking about this and FanFest 1 years and years down the road. Because I want somebody to tell me what else has been bigger than that in the wrestling part of it that's taking place in St. Louis.
Nothing.
I can't imagine being a promoter, especially a new one, and not wanting to have your name out there with a couple thousand people walking through. It just doesn't make business sense.
I was just going to say, what part of Business 101 did you sleep through? It just, you come and you get to promote your style. You get to promote your organization. You could bring a couple of your local wrestlers and let them sign autographs, let them sell their photos or whatever.
Maybe even get them in a battle royal.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we'll go that far, but but again, I'm just tired of people saying, "Oh, Herb don't want to work with nobody. He just wants to control everything." We don't control anything. All we control is our destiny. And right now, SICW is keeping old school professional wrestling alive to the best of our ability.
Yep.
Now, when I tell you I sit and have my own private talks with people who aren't with us anymore, yeah, and that's up for me to do. And do I scratch my head and say, what in the hell am I doing this for? It's a risk. I mean, 53, 54, if Nate's right, or if I'm right, I didn't get to count them all, I guess. But that's a hell of a nut to crack, So if the bottom falls out of this thing, it's scary. And if Larry Matasek or Sam Muchnick was sitting here with us today, they'd get me committed. They'd say, "What in the heck are you doing? What little mind you got left?" But also, Larry taught me and told me, "Hey, if you're going to do something a second time, you at least got to do it as good or better."
Right.
And so
Well,
that's why
mean,
I posted
let's,
today. We've outdone what we done last May as far as guests and special appearances to our schedules to show up.
I mean, let's just go through some of them. I mean, of course, we already mentioned Stan Hansen. We already mentioned Hauku. Greg the Hammer Valentine's going to be there, and he always holds a special meaning in my heart. I told it last week. He was my first legend that I ever got to wrestle. So I mean, he'll always be high in my book. Of course, Bob will be there. Bob Orton Jr. Let's see here. We got the Glow Wrestlers. Downtown Bruno, you said.
Yep.
Abdul the Butcher. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully Abdul and Stan Hansen are on two different sides of the room, because you never know with those two what's going to happen.
Well, and again, Abby's been in for me before, and I never will forget when I first had to negotiate with him back years ago, because when I first started working him and Frank Brody was always the go-to guy with him. Hell, I was still wet behind the ears in the business, didn't know how to negotiate with a guy like Abdullah the Butcher. And Frank would always be the in between guy. And I would just call him Frank and Larry, and I would say, "We got a card. This is what we need. Need you and Abby, if he's available, blah, blah, blah." And we were on the phone one day at Larry's house, and we was planning his show. And he said it was going to be at the Dupo High School in Dupo, Illinois. In fact, we've got the tape of that we play periodically on the show. And Frank said, "Hey, you got a pen and paper there, Herb?" "Yeah." We're writing the card out. He gives me his phone number and he says, "You need to call Abby and get this deal set up." And I got tongue tied. My tongue swollen. "What the hell are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You're never going to learn how to do this if you don't." And he said, "But I'm going to tell you how to do him, because this is what Abby's going to tell you. And, he's going to want this. He's going to want half the money. He's going to want this and that." And he said, "So just negotiate with him." And then he said, "It'll probably come to the point where you're going to say, 'No, I can't afford that.' And then before you get ready to hang up, just tell him, say, 'Okay, I'll let Frank know.'" And it was like it was rehearsed with them guys. It was like I was doing work. And when it got to the end of the conversation, I said, "Okay, Abby, thanks. I'll let Frank know." And he said, "Frank, who are you talking about?" I said, "Brody." He said, "Brody going to be there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "What time you need me there?" And from that point on, he opened the door for me. And so, like I said, just like now, when Abby and I talked, he was a Brody. He loved Brody. They made a lot of money together. And and I told him, Barbara was going to be there, and it's a Bruiser Brody Memorial. And hey, anything I can do to help the cause, I'm going to do it. So I'm glad he agreed to come in for it. Because the last time we had him in, we had Charlie Thez, which was Lou Thez's wife. We had her and Barbara and Abby in for that a few years back. So.
Yeah, I remember that too. Matter of fact, I think I'll post pictures of that. Yeah. Just, and I was trying to express we had a couple of the young rookies on the last few weeks. So we had the Top Guns, we had Bryce, and we had Sean. And I was trying to just see where their head was, because, first year in the business, and they've been around so many legends. And I was kind of feeling it out to see if they really let that sink in, because I can't imagine.
Do you think they really do?
No.
I don't know. I mean, because they've had it so lucky. Because I mean, I was
They're spoiled.
right. I was probably 6 or 7 years in before I got the chance to wrestle Greg Valentine. Just to see all the first year that they're in, and besides the Fan Fest, we had that Halloween show that they were working, not as wrestlers, but being a part of the show. And then other legends that came in, Tito Santana, who is going to be at the Fan Fest. We previously had him in. And just to be around the caliber of people that you have brought in, I mean, my head
Yeah.
would have been spinning.
Yeah, I just don't know if, and I'll go out here and on the limb and say I don't know if it's just not them. There's other people that I wonder about, some of the workers, but I can't worry about that. I do what I do. I would hope that they understand that it benefits them
Right.
more than so. I mean, I've been fortunate in this business all these years. I've done I'm kind of like what Larry said, and I'll always remember this. The only regret I got is I can't go back and do it again. And that's true. Gene Kaniski said the same thing. Because we can't go back and do that. But gosh, man, if I was a young guy trying to get into this business like some of these guys are, or even if I've been in it for a while and getting the opportunity of sitting in a locker room with the guys that you or your parents or grandparents talked about and grew up watching, and here you're in the same dressing room with them, and you get the chance to ask them to watch your match or critique your match. And man, if you're not taking advantage of that, shame on you. Because I know you guys do. I know you and Bobby do. And I know a few of the other guys do. But there's some of them I think just take it to granted that, okay, Herb's doing this because he likes this guy. He's bringing him in for this or that. Well, no, I bring it in because that helps the fans. It keeps the fans interacting. It definitely raises the bar. Tell me, all the organizations that are out there, all of them together have not done what we have done.
Right.
And I'm not talking bad about them. I'm just saying that they could be a part of that. They could be a part of that if they just understood what business was all about, the wrestling business. Everybody talks about the territories. Well, Bobby, you're going down to Arkansas next month. Texan, you're down in southern Missouri next month. I know the Top Guns are going down to Arkansas. I know our Canadian Zero and Big Nasty Glenn Williams are going down to Arkansas. The Top Guns have been to Memphis several times to wrestle.
Right.
So, and if my geographical mind tells me, I think that's outside the 25-mile rule. So I don't think you guys are staying locally. I don't think you guys are Herb don't want us to go outside of 25 miles or, and we can't come in. And so my point is we'll work with anybody. One, they got to be a worker and they got to be a good worker or at least to be trained. But all these other promotions together have not done a show at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel and Coruscant Room, repeated matches at the Missouri Athletic Club, at the History Museum, So, and again, am I bragging about that? Well, yeah, or I wouldn't be talking about it.
Right.
But,
I mean, there's an organization right down the street from the Missouri Athletic Club that got bypassed just because we just happened to be the promotion of the year.
Well, and again, I was there used to be a podcast, the Heartbeat Radio was ran by the Hart family, Ross Hart, Bruce Hart, Bob Johnson. They used to have it on every week, and I was a regular guest on there with the Barbara Goodish. Charlie Thez would go on there. Larry Matisek used to go on there, and it was out of Canada. And 2 years in a row, SICW was voted by their fan base, and they had a heck of a following because, like I said, they were bringing on legends and talking on there. And 2 years in a row, we got voted as the #1 promotion across the world. It was no staged, okay, let's put a poll out there, and then everybody in our locker room votes on it. This was voted on from fans across the world that listen to Heartbeat Radio.
Yeah.
And again, it's like when I won the Red Bastine Award at the Cauliflower Alley Club. I remember Brian Blair, our friend, who will be joining us at FanFest too. After I gave the acceptance, first of all, I didn't want it. I told him when he called and said I would have been nominated and they wanted me to accept it. I said, nope, I don't do it for that. Give it to somebody else that's been in the business. And they said, no, the board's talked and, we've decided this is what we want to do. That was on a Friday. I said, let me think about it. It was that following Monday. I called him and I said, of course, I talked to Darla Staggs, a few other people, and Barbara Goodish, and they all said, no, Herb, you deserve it. You got to do it. So I called Brian on a Monday and said, hey, okay, I'll accept it. But then when I got out there and I got up and made this speech, acceptance speech, I looked around the room and I was able to pick out there's Sergeant Slaughter, there's Jerry Briscoe, there's all these legends out there that I've had the opportunity to know or work with, or through Sam or through Larry or through Brody. And I'm talking about them, about how much they've done for this and that. And after I got through, Brian Blair walked up to give me the award and he said, God damn you. He said, this is your night. You're giving all of us the praise. And I said, without all of you guys, there is no me. And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And that's what these promotions that are out there, they don't understand that. They don't understand, man. And not that I know it all, but I know about the wrestling business. And if they're not wanting to be a part of that, because I'm not going to be here forever. Unless everybody just says, okay, we're all retiring, we ain't going to do wrestling. But I think Ron Powers, our good friend, said it best at the Christmas party. And I heard him say it when he came to Larry Matisek's memorial service. We are the only organization out there, in his mind, and we all know how Ron's mind can be sometimes, but he's been out there. He's been on the road. He's traveled. He's done all of it. And then he watches what's going on the local scene there, and he hears what's going on the local scenes, and not from me, but from other people that he knows that watch things and go to shows. He said the best thing: what happens when SICW is no more? The old school wrestling. That's the problem.
Well, I have a solution. We are going to what do they call it? Genetically freeze you.
No, that ain't it.
Until we get a cure for whatever happens, and we'll bring you back.
Like I said, I've got my my son Jason, my daughter Jessica. It will be there, and like I said, my wife is wrestled out.
She's only been around it a couple of years.
Her and poor Wanda, little dynamite, Tony Costa's wife. You talk about two ladies that could tell stories.
And you made me think about them when you talked about working with companies outside of 25. You've actually worked with people inside the 25 miles when they're smart about the business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. And it's funny you bring that up. I had a gentleman, and I'm not at liberty to mention his name. And I guess I could, but I didn't ask him if I could.
Whisper in my ear. I can be at liberty.
But he called me tonight, and before I left for my meeting, and wants to rent our wrestling ring for a show later on this year. And I don't want to say I was shocked. I mean, now I don't know this gentleman. All I know is he's talked bad about me. He's talked bad about SICW. But tonight on the phone, he got to know me. I got to know a little bit more about him. And we talked about the relationship that Tony and I had. There are still people in the St. Louis area that will try to convince people that Tony Costa and I was not friends. That and this gentleman and I tonight, I gave him facts and told him a few stories. And I said, and you don't have to believe me. A lot of it's documented. I said, who did they call?
I met you through working with Tony.
I said, who did they call when there was a group that tried to take over South Broadway Athletic Club? Who did they call but Herb Simmons to come over and help squash that? And that was Jim Harris that called me, which I love Jim Harris. Jim got a raw deal over there too. And but when they were going to try to throw Tony out of there, I remember when Jim called me and said, "Hey, this is what they're trying to do to Tony, and they're trying to say this and trying to say that." I said, "I'll be there." And I went over that night and I told him, I don't care whoever the loudmouth is that wants to spread these rumors. Here is an 18 by 18 ring standing right here. Come on down and let's call it the way it is. Nobody bothered to come down because they were full of crap. They wanted Tony out of there, and they didn't think anybody would stand up and defend it. And that's what I told this gentleman tonight. I said, so all the stuff that you've been told is the people that were working behind the scenes to do what got done over there.
Right, they were working them.
Yeah, and so this gentleman and I, like I said, for 45 minutes tonight, and like I said, all I'd been told is, he thought I was a worthless piece of such and such, because that's what people had told him, and he's calling me and asking me to rent our ring. And of course I said, I got to get a hold of the guy that has it, Andy, and if he's available, I'm sure first thing he's going to say, do you want me to do it? And but I think this guy's sincere. He's legit. He's been fed. He's let people get in his ears that shouldn't have been. And so that was a cool conversation. And it brought up the fact of Tony and I. And I know you guys will remember when Tony and I split. Well, that was man. That was like, I don't know what. Little Tim Miller said he wished the East Grand Lake Community Center would burn down. I was another piece of this and piece of that. And he was telling everybody, and Shaft was telling everybody that Tony and I was this far apart. What they didn't know is Tony and I was on the phone every night. I was helping him put the shows together at South Broadway Athletic Club. And there was a point, and that went on for a long time. And there was a point where Tony said, "Oh man, we need to tell him it's really getting out of hand." I said, "Wait a minute. This is better storyline than the NWO." When we got these guys believing this is and this is, you talk about working the workers, we did it. And I told you, who spoke at Tony's funeral? There was nobody at Tony's funeral that wanted to speak, but me. Damien, what's his name? Damien Blade. He was the preacher. He didn't know him. He didn't know nothing about Tony. They asked me to speak at Tony's funeral because they knew that I'm the one that traveled the roads with him, and I was the one who I took him to the hospital when he got thrown out of the ring at South Broadway Athletic Club and dislocated his shoulder. I'm the one that took him to the hospital, got a surgery lined up for him. When I was in the hospital, when I woke up, him and his wife were the first ones standing there. If that's not being friends, I don't know what is. But if you allow people to tell you bullshit and get in your ear, then shame on you.
So you recently posted a picture of above your ambulance place of Brody's where you hosted secret parties or whatever, and Brody was there. Was that Little Dynamite in that picture too?
Yes.
That is awesome.
There was Little Dynamite, his wife Tony, and the girl that was standing in front was Jan. She was a worker. She was training, I should say. And if you look in the back, you'll see my ugly mug. And
I saw you.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, that big mustache.
Big Daddy was standing there. Yeah, that was actually we had a bar in Cahokia Heights, Illinois, called Mickey's Emergency Stop. And the upstairs we had turned into the Brody Lounge. And we would have parties when he was in town, just where people could come and he didn't have to feel, nobody was going to give him any crap, threaten him. Because, that's how some of these big guys are. Andre, that's why Andre, when Sam would bring Andre in town, he'd bring him over to a place called Jack English's in Belleville because Sam knew everybody there. It was a higher class place. Didn't have to worry about somebody coming in and saying, "Hey, you ain't nothing. You're just a wrestler. Let me whoop you, Andre." And, Andre ended up throwing people out. But we didn't have that over here. but that's why Sam would bring him, and that's why we had that place set up there for Frank when he was in town, and that was the last place he was at in 1988 before we left and went and got murdered.
But you got pictures of that with like Brody and Tony, but you don't know Tony that well.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Hey, I got a picture of both of them with Santa Claus. So, and I posted that during the Christmas break. I mean, it was a great looking Santa Claus too. I'm just gonna throw that out there that the Santa Claus
Looked pretty good.
handsome guy.
Seemed like a Southern style Santa Claus, maybe from Texas.
He had a little Southern, twang to him. So,
But my point being on that whole rant there is that people are jealous. Jealousy is a disease, and man, and look what it's done. In fact, people say, well, why can't South Broadway and SICW work together like you and Tony used to? Hey, I offered, I reached out there, and then it fell apart. Bottom fell out of it. Again, I hold no real feelings towards that. I wish them luck, and they're doing good. They're still having matches. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Bobby.
I was just gonna say, I still have the messages that say that I was kicked out of there. I did not leave there.
No, and not one time did I ever call over there and try to tell them how to do anything. All I did is said, if you need anything, I'm one phone call away. And that was at the request of Tony on his deathbed, basically. And I've had that discussion with the powers to be over there, and they know it. They just don't want to admit to it. I wish them all the luck in the world, because that was a place that I helped build. That was a place that Tony Costa turned around when it was on its deathbed for the business. When the groups that was in there, the organization guys who was in there before had run it in the ground. I seen a lot of guys coming in and out of there, the Bull Brannigans, the Timmy Kearns, Bill Osborne, people like that. They were all workers there. But Tony got put in charge, and he pulled that thing out. But then, we would bring some of the legends in over there. I brought Baron von Roschke there. We brought Harley Race there. Larry, I'd bring him over there all the time. Mickey Garagiola. Last guy I took in there was Ron Simmons. But I didn't do nothing for South Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, never, and when I say never, in all the years that I was there, did I ever get a penny out of South Broadway Athletic Club. Never. And that was the relationship I had with Tony Costa. So.
Well, I just want to say a few things about your character, if anybody has any questions coming from an outsider like me. Jim brought me in, and you didn't know anything about me. You took his word for it, and in, less than a year, I was in a ring filming with Stan and Jimmy Hart and all the people that I grew up watching. And in less than a year, because I had Jimmy whisper in my ear about what his good side was for the cameras.
So you told me that Herb gave you permission to pull like anything, any of the footage from any of our shows. That one blew my mind right away. It's like, I think you met him like for 1 month at that point.
Yeah, and all that was on Jim's word, and it's been nothing but great for me.
Well, and I appreciate that, but I had another conversation early this morning. My days start off early, and again, I don't divulge names unless people tell me I can, because I figure if somebody's calling to talk business like that, that's a business talk that I have. But it was funny because the young person was asking me some questions on the business, and I explained to him I learned a long time ago, in this business, your reputation is everything. And I know Bobby, you and Jim understand that, and a lot of our other guys do. But there are people in this business that don't understand that. They're not proud of what their reputation is. I told him, I said, there's two types of fans out there. There's the wrestlers fan, and then there's the wrestling fans. And he said, I mean, we talked a little bit more about something else, and he come back and he said, hey, boss, he said, explain that to me. He said, I like that, but explain to me what that means. I said, well, there's wrestlers fans, and then there's wrestling fans. And the wrestling fan is a fan that is going to come out there and be a diehard supporter. They're going to watch the matches. They're going to buy into the storylines, and they are going to be there thick and thin, and they are believers. They grew up on it. Their families, their grandparents, their parents have educated to them on what wrestling was all about. The wrestler fan is the fan that comes to watch his family member or his friend wrestle. And Tony and I used to sit there at South Broadway, and we'd count them. We could see them. I'm the one that finally told him, put so-and-so in about the fourth or fifth match, because at that time he was getting a little percentage of the bar. If you put him on in the first match, you could see that individual's group of friends leave right after his match. So, and it wasn't long after that he wasn't getting any part of the bar money, but you could see that those are what's called wrestlers fans. They're not there to watch wrestling. They're there to watch their friend, family, or somebody else's friend or family. Nothing wrong with that. They bought their ticket at the door, and that's what Tony used to say. Hey, they've already bought their ticket. I don't care if they leave early or what,
Right.
I said, but no, I look at it from the aspect of people want to come to see the main event. And I've proven that time and time again. Now, one could argue that our card next Saturday night, every one of those matches are top-notch matches. They could be a main event, but not every card is like that. Not every card, everybody's going to come and say, hey, that match I saw tonight was a main event. All 9 matches were main events. They're coming to see that cage match and probably the tag match, if I had that out of it, and the heavyweight title match. Betting man, you're going to win hands down. But when you have the wrestler fan that comes in, they're there to see that one match. And if you've got a shitty match going on, the odds are they're not coming back unless their wrestler fan or friend is back wrestling again. And the young man I was talking to this morning said, that makes sense. I'm going to use that. I said, well, I won't charge you to use it, but I was taught that years ago. And there's guys out there that's been doing a long time that will tell you the same thing, that, yeah, our business has changed. But that's the other thing. When I hear, oh, man, wrestling has changed so bad, I'd say, well, tell me what's changed about it. To my knowledge, a headlock is still a headlock. An arm drag is still an arm drag. A sleeper hold is still called a sleeper hold. A drop kick is still called a drop kick. What's changed in this business is mentality and egos. Didn't have all those egos back in the day. Now, you had guys that didn't want you taking their spot, and you didn't give their spot up because you went out there and you worked harder. You went out there and performed, and the promoter said, you're selling tickets, you're my top guy. Nowadays, everybody just wants to go out there with an ego and flip-flop like fish out of water and think that they get over that way. They're only getting over to the wrestler fan. They're not getting over to the wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that if, with the good promoting like you do, that a wrestler fan can become a wrestling fan. I'll speak on Jen Van Camp, that she brings consistently 10 to 15 people every week. I think originally it was for me. Now I don't think she even cares if I'm there or not.
I don't think she knows you anymore. I'm telling you, I cannot, and that's a point well taken, because then guess what that is? It's not so much what the promotion is. It's you going out there doing your job. You going out there doing what you know how to do best will flip them. It's just like the analogy of I can take any good guy and flip him over to a bad guy in one match, one show. And I've had people tell me, no, you can't do that. Well, I can do it. I'll tell you one of the biggest, and I don't want to say arguments because him and I never argued, one of the biggest disagreements that we had was when Curtis Wild issue took place. I was told by my dearest friend of all, Larry Matisick, you can't ever do that. It will never work. Fans will never buy it. I said, okay, I'm gonna bet you a night at Steak and Shake. I said, but now I get to pick the time. I get to that was his favorite place, that and Applebee's. I said, but I'm going to pick the time. I get to pick the time and how it's done. Now, some people like him, some people don't. We all like him, but he gets a pretty good pop when he comes out from behind the curtain, and he has for some time now, as being Curtis Wild on the Wild side.
Yeah.
But Larry just thought that he was such a heel material back then that we could never turn him. Yes, I can turn anybody in one night if I want to. Got to have the right time to do it and the right storyline, and it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a picture of our friend Rock Riddle. Yeah, you got them all flashing up there.
Yeah.
I do. It took a day and a half.
Yeah, Scott Romer. What a guy Scott is. There's a guy that's got tons of stories. You think I got stories? Sit down and talk with Scott Romer. Not only about wrestling, boxing, presidents, queens, kings. He's photographed all. He's got stories out of this world. Debbie Combs, sweet story about Debbie. Her and her mother, Cora, worked for us quite a bit. And what a sweetheart Debbie is. She started off with Dick the Bruiser's organization, and she loved Sam Muchnick, loved Larry Matisick, and Herb Simmons. But I'm low on the totem pole, but I was tickled to death when she called me over the weekend and said, hey, I'd like to be a part of this thing. And I said, okay, good. You know, I think I told you I'm working with Steve Stasiak with Book Pro Wrestlers, and so we're getting a lot of the guys on the list and getting them some work, and which I think it's good. That's why I'm getting some of our local guys to put some photos together and get their bios, and so we can put them on the list. Because, I mean, just like the gentleman up in Indiana, he actually called me yesterday to make sure Bob got home and told me how good Bob did. And, you know, he said, you know, I'd like to send some of my guys down your way. Maybe you send some of yours up here to help me out. So that's territorial working. Right. So I don't want to hear about territories won't work. They will work if promoters want to work it. And I mean, that's far enough away. I mean, I don't have to worry about it, and that's past 25 miles. So, but
well, in the couple times we've talked to James Beard, he's talked about his Texas style wrestling and wanting to bring one of those guys, one or two of them up here, and then, you know, vice versa. James
is, I'm telling you, and you hear me, I say it, you guys say it, one of the tops in the business. But James is, I mean, there's another guy that has walked it and talked it, you know, and just a down to earth, great guy.
And movie star
now, I'll tell you. But I kid him all the time. In fact, Lori, the lady that he knows real well, Lori McGee, she called me over the weekend, and you know, she was right there with the Von Erichs on all their shows, all their trips. She knows more about the Von Erichs than most do. And so she called me over the weekend, and I asked her if she went and saw the movie yet, and she said, nope, haven't seen it. She said, have you? I said, nope, haven't seen it. And I've had, I'll show you the messages of people who've texted me and asked my opinion on it. I haven't seen it yet. And one reason why I'm a critic when it comes to that stuff. And I've heard just enough that's going to tell me I'm going to be a critic of it. You know, when they start telling me that Harley Race, the actor, was punching with his right hand, well, you know, times Harley Race ever threw a right hand. You know, Von Erichs was talking bad about Sam Muchnick. Never happened. Never. So those are the kind of things that I'd say, now, wait a minute. I'd be standing up in the middle of the theater saying, you know, but it's a movie.
Well, watching it at the press junket, that we went to, thanks to Dr. J.
Yeah.
A few of the things that I knew were wrong, I would sit up and look over at Bobby and Jim to go,
Yeah.
okay, what's going on here? This isn't right. But
Yeah.
Jim had to keep saying, it's not a documentary, it's just a movie.
It's a movie, and that's the difference. And I talked to Kevin last week, and he'd been on the road for like 14 days and living out of a suitcase, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy because it's given him a little boost here. In fact, if you see, he's out making some appearances, and that's because the movie people's got him tied in with him and getting some exposure for it. And but I think that it's been good for him. And I think if in the right circumstances, he would say, yeah, it probably could have been done a little bit differently. But it's already done. It doesn't mean they won't. I'm working on a deal right now with a guy. I just sent him all of the wrestling at the Chase Von Erich footage that they're coming out with the DVD, which will be coming out soon. So I'm excited about that. So.
What about, are you getting involved with the Bruiser Brody miniseries that they're doing in the UK?
Yeah, I've done the radio. In fact, I've done the first interview. I was the first one he interviewed. They're doing it. It's going to be an 8-episode program, is what they originally told me. In fact, I was actually. When did we do the MAC show? What month was that?
September, wasn't it?
September, whenever it was, when we did the last MAC show, I was with Jimmy Hart getting ready to do his interview for the show, and I got the call, and then they wanted me to talk to Barbara and to get her on board, and so I called Barbara from the hotel room there with Jimmy, and she said, well,